Hey, this is week 2 readings for Genesis. We're going to be talking about the P source and the prehistory. So last week we read the flood stories, and today we're going to start out by reading that second part of the flood story again. So reading B. You can either read it or you can go back and listen to the second half of last week's stuff. But we're going to do reading C is actually reading B, but you have different questions in the notebook, and I'm not reading you the questions, right? And then you're going to read D and E, and those readings are going to have their own questions. There's no challenge material this week. You've got enough to do. Also, if you hadn't noticed, there are reference documents in the back of the notebook. And so this week you might find particularly helpful reference E, F, and G. So reading C is reading B from last week, the second biblical flood story. I told you, the one with the rainbow. And now we move on to the creation story. This is part 1, reading D. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening, and there was morning the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And then I'm going to skip day 3, 4, and 5, but it's the same form. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and he said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Then God said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. But the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Reading E is a little snippet I wrote about what prehistory is. So this is reading E, the prehistory. Genesis 1 to 11 is called the prehistory by Bible scholars. It is a collection of tales that were written about things that came before the time they were written, so the earliest tales. They were likely transmitted by mouth for a long time before they were written down. One way to think about them that I found helpful is to think of them as campfire stories. These were stories that defined the period before the Israelites were a people, how they came to be, where their neighbors came from, and the things God did before they were there. These are the stories they told their children and each other around the campfires at night to teach them and remind them of who they were. The prehistory contains few stories, but they are popular ones. All of these stories happened before God came to Abram and revealed God's self to be one. So the whole identity of Jewish people ties back to Abram slash Abraham, whose story begins at the end of Genesis 11. The Israelites didn't consider themselves to be the descendants of Noah, but the descendants of Abraham. Not because they can't trace themselves to Noah, but because Abraham is a more important figure to their history. His interaction with God is the moment when their identity begins as a religion and nation. It's the true revealing of God's self to humankind. These prehistory stories, while important and interesting, are not quite as key to the Jewish faith as the stories from Genesis 12 on, when Abraham comes into play. So we will be in the prehistory for one more week, just to introduce the second source of the four we will be studying in the four source hypothesis. The prehistory is only attributed to two sources: J, the Yahwist, which we learned about last week, and the P, priestly source, we will learn about this week. By the end of next week, you should have a clear idea of which of these two sources is at work in various places in the first 11 chapters of Genesis.